What's up with it, people? Die Hard fan back in the building. Thanks to Sports for America for putting me on. It's the people's coach, yours truly, Cornelius Cole. Um, just gonna jump right in there because there's a lot of sports to talk. But the NBA Final Four, the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference Finals, the conference finals, been paired up. You got Miami, and you got the Celtics, and you got the Lakers and the Nuggets, which is where I'm gonna start. Last night was an indication that that's going to be a good series, if anything. Um, the Nuggets, man, they look really good, but they seem to have this thing where they can get big leads and then they let teams come back. We saw it against Minnesota. Um, we saw the same thing a little somewhat against Phoenix, and now you see it against the Lakers. But all the talk's been about how good the Joker is. I mean, AD dropped 40 points, had like 15 rebounds or whatever, um, and it wasn't enough. The Joker with another 34 points, 21 rebounds. I'm more impressed with the rebounds and the two block shots, like showing that he can and will step up a little bit and play defense in certain situations where he's not known for defense. But I'm pretty much looking at that like, hey, don't know if the Nuggets are going to win it because something just tells me that the Lakers story not over yet. They lost one game, and the biggest takeaway for the Lakers is that they were able to come back. They were able to put some pressure on Denver. They were able to D up enough to slow them down and make the game competitive going down the stretch. When it seemed like it was just going to be a Nuggets blowout, a Nuggets home win by a long shot. Um, they got it down to where they could have tied the game. We got it down to manageable, and they still lost. A loss is a loss. I understand that, but the way that they lost, they got to be happy with that. They got to be happy with the results. Like I said, the Nuggets, they're gonna have to start putting teams away and make sure they put away, or it's gonna slip away from them. But I'm anxious to see how they're gonna try to defend Denver with all the weapons that they have, and the way that they use those weapons. With you can't. I'm in my mind. I'm thinking you got to make Jokic either a scorer or a passer, but you can't make them both. You can't let them be both, and you got to do something with him on the glass. Offensive rebounds, he was doing his thing. Rebounds in general, he had 21 of them, so he's doing his things on the glass. But you got to figure out a way to. You're not gonna stop him. I'm looking at that. You're not gonna stop him. You got to find a way to minimize some of the damage that he does. And I'm thinking, make him a scorer. I'm like, let him drop 50, but then have 5 assists or something. Like you got to tighten up the defense on everybody else is what I'm figuring you're gonna have to do with Joker. And on the other side of things, LeBron, AD, they look all right. Well, LeBron was getting whatever he wanted at the bucket. They don't have anybody big enough to really contain him. Um, and AD is AD. When AD is doing his thing, I mean, he still had a good performance. He didn't dominate Joker, or he didn't dominate that game, but he dropped 40, and if 40 not enough from AD, then what's going to be enough if you're the Lakers? So that defense, but I think in a 7 game series, that defense going to wear them down a little bit. And I want to take a minute to talk about Darvin Ham. Man, Darvin Ham. At first, I was like, man, this guy in over his head. Early on in the season, he looked like he was panning out. Uh, throw Rob Palinka in there, crazy moves. Palinka, it didn't look that good for the Laker, for the Laker office and the Laker coaching staff. It just didn't look that good early on. But what they've done now has got to be impressive, right? Like Darvin Ham, um, man, he proven to be a solid coach as far as his philosophies, his defensive strategies, and his in-game adjustments. You saw what he did against the Warriors. And now against this big of a hole with for it to be something. So I agree with what LeBron said, but I also um, just looking at the Western Conference, how tough it is. I still believe that it was once upon a time that the Western Conference was the toughest conference, and I still believe that the Western Conference homes champions because you have to play against the defending champions like the Golden State Warriors. Who building a dynasty. Those Eastern teams that slip in there. Milwaukee slipped in there. Toronto slipped in there. You got to think about. Um, what it takes for them to win. Like they beat, like Milwaukee beat a Phoenix team a couple of years ago, a few years ago, or whatever. They beat a Phoenix team. We knew they would fall short. But had it have been the Clippers or anybody else, I think that the Bucks would have had a tougher series. Same thing with Toronto. Toronto ended up playing against Golden State. You got to remember Golden State. They had certain people that were injured. Durant, um, Kevin Durant, and um, um, Clay Thompson. They were hurt. So but when you're looking at the East is building itself up, but the East doesn't have that dynasty thing. But they do have a good rivalry, and that's the Miami Heat and the Celtics who getting ready to play today. Those two teams seem to just want to be there, and they've been around 3 of the last 4 years. But they play each other and they play each other tough. Remember, last year was a great series, so this year we're looking for another great series out of those. Um, it's just Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, who gonna get their team over the top. Now I do think the Celtics have a better team as far as team wise. If you're going by names on jerseys, but I just think that Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler thing seems to be working. Jimmy Butler seems to uh, be able to lift the team up. Around him topic. The little topic and the all of that as far as the Heat and the Celtics really breaking down. Let's go back and let's look at the Heat come off a series against New York, which we pretty much figured they had the upper hand because they had Jimmy Butler. Take nothing away from Jalen Brunson and those dudes, man. Hats off to them. The Knicks look like they might be tough. I think they got to make moves. My move would be to get rid of Julius Randle. Um, and I'm not piggybacking off of anybody else. I've been saying that for the longest that, Julius Randle might be a hindrance, or maybe he can learn to play within that system and get a little bit better. But I think um, if he picked it up on the defensive end, then what he does, some of the mistakes he makes on offense and some of the terrible shots he makes on offense would be, they would be livable. That like, you wouldn't hold it against him as much. If That's just my opinion on the whole Julius Randle thing, but I think the Knicks need to make a couple of changes. And Thibodeau probably realized that he could play Toppin and all those guys a little too late, but I think that a little shake up, find somebody else, a formidable scorer that can play a little bit of defense because we see that's what's going to get the Knicks over the top. Um, Now I had said on my Facebook that hey, that Heat Knicks game six was one of those that was um, it was a great game, but it reminded me of the Heat and the Knicks in the '90s. Yeah, they took us a throwback. They went back to the Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing days. They went back to the Tim Hardaway, John Starks days and stuff like that. I'm all for it. But um, when you look at the Celtics struggled a little bit against the 76ers, but then blew them out in game seven. That just shows you what the Celtics could do if they just did it. Like on a consistent basis, I think the Celtics, I think they play down to the level of competition. It's not the first time we've seen that. We saw that with like the Spurs with the Spurs, Shaq saw a lot as far as Celtics, but Jason Tatum taking over game six. epic. 4 3-pointers coming down the stretch after not doing hardly anything but willing his team to win. But then you knew right then and there that the 76ers was, you knew they was going to be in trouble if they didn't pull it off. Now, the 76ers, I've said it and I'm just going to keep saying it, like Joel Embiid is not that guy, man. Um, it's something missing. It's like no matter how good he is, it's still something missing. And to me, it's the maturity level. Like I said, guy gotta know when to stand up. Guy gotta know, that flopping and all that stuff. It play. So those things are a factor. And also Doc Rivers. I haven't been a huge fan of Doc. First of all, I have nothing against Doc Rivers. Don't know the man. Don't have nothing against him. Just saying that for me, if Doc Rivers is your coach, unless you the '08 Celtics, that's the only time. I mean, the guy can't really just take a team there, and I don't know what it is with a guy who's won championships, and I'm sure he wants to get back. I'm sure Doc is trying to figure out himself what's the problem because he has these teams that seem dynamic enough and seem good enough, but they not good enough. They keep falling short. 3 straight years in the semifinals with Philly, he falls short. Let's not forget what he did in the bubble. What happened to his team in the bubble? The Clippers that got him out of LA. You can't forget about what happened there. I mean, it's just a pattern with Doc Rivers, and I don't, and some people say it's his in-game adjustments or lack of making in-game adjustments. For me, the thing with Doc Rivers is understanding the personnel. Sometimes I don't think he understands the personnel that he has. Or you know, um, Game 7, he did nothing. He did nothing to stop those guys, man. Like he did nothing to try to cool them off. And then, but I knew it was over. But like when your players, as a coach, what does it say about you when your players start hanging their heads after a few made baskets? I mean, I think the Celtics went up by like 9. I think it was 12 or something like that, and a timeout was called, and they already hanging their heads. You could just see the body language of the 76ers, how they always hanging their head and they just walking off the court all sad. It's like no fire was in them. And then you go back to the Game 6 and you listen to Joel Embiid after the game talking about he didn't get the ball and all this. Man, I don't know. I grew up watching the likes of Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, players like that who demanded the ball, Charles Barkley's and stuff, who demanded the ball from their players right then and there on the court, not after the game. It's like, hey, give me the ball or whatever. But at the same time, um, the Sixers, I just didn't think that they, tough enough in here and in here in order to win big games. And some of that has to go with the coach. If the coach is not going to make certain moves or adjustments or try to figure something out or be able to get his team head in the game, because I thought that they started hanging their heads way too early before the game became a blowout. And then when it became a blowout, it was just a what's the point? But you got the MVP of the league and you still can't figure it out. And then once again, Tobias Harris, where was he? James Harden, where were these guys, who played all right here and there throughout the series? And then, meaningful game. Now I really need you to lock in, play ball. They just ain't there. But it started off like they might stick around a little bit, the hustle plays and stuff like that seemed like they were being made. And then all of a sudden, they just fell off. But it was hot shooting by the Celtics that really did it, and it shows you where the Celtics are now. We was talking Missoula. He actually outcoached Doc Rivers, and I say that from a standpoint. And once he realized, remember I had asked last week, what was Robert Williams going to do? What was he doing out there? Then all of a sudden, Robert Williams kicked it into gear, or something like, he played a lot better. But and then they didn't rely on the Al Horford shooting a whole lot of threes. Al Horford changed his philosophy. But what I liked about the Celtics was the defensive effort. Everybody diving for loose balls, taking the charges, and really stepping up to the plate. Now we're gonna see what they're gonna do against a Heat team that's just gonna come out probably and try to make the game probably low score and that whole up close defensive tight. Um, I think those are the kind of games that the Heat want to play because those are the kind of games that we know that the Heat have a huge chance of winning. Um, but back to the whole Doc Rivers thing, it's no surprise that he's out of there, man. Um, I wish I didn't feel that way, but I do feel that way. Like he's out and with good cause. But now with Doc being out, so Monty Williams he's out, which I figured that would come. The reason why I figured Monty Williams would be out of there is because man, you had a chance to win a championship and it didn't happen. I mean, you took Phoenix to the finals. Long time since they had been to the finals, but they get to the finals and then they don't deliver, and then the team just goes down from there. But I think with new ownership, you should know that a new regime, a new coaching regime is coming, and plus, you got to think it's going to take a special mind to coach KD and Booker, and then helping a GM put the pieces around them that's going to be successful out there in that Western Conference. I mean, KD came from the West, so he going back to the West, so he knows how tough the West is. I'm not saying that the East is not tough. What I'm saying is that the West is notorious for being that tough, and that's what I was talking about earlier. That's what I was alluding to earlier. This is what I was alluding to earlier about having the right coach. So, for instance, who do you get to take over in Phoenix? Who do you get to take over in Philly? Who goes to Toronto? Who goes to Milwaukee? Now, Milwaukee to me is the shot where you got a coaching spot open. Coach Bud, now Coach Booten, Coach Bud gonna have his choice of where he wants to go. Like I'm pretty sure some team gonna want to snatch him up if he not already in talks to get one. I think Udoka going off the table early, going to the Houston Rockets right away says that hey, now it's about these other teams. They trying to win championships. Phoenix want to try to win the championship. Milwaukee supposed to be on the championship track, which leads me real quick just for a real quick, a little stimulate your mind moment. It's like, is Giannis gonna get more than one, or is Giannis just a one-time champion? I thought the young man would have more, and I'm pretty sure he should have more by now. Um, but we always looking at the team. We always saying different things. But look at like um, Middleton champion, Drew Holiday champion. I like Drew Holiday. I like what the Bucks have in general, but what I didn't understand is how you take that out on the coach when your player gets hurt, and then you don't have, and then not only that, your player can't shoot free throws. Your star player can't shoot free throws. I mean, he was panicking at the line, like he cracked at the line, so didn't even want to go to the line. As a matter of fact, those things are heartbreaking to watch. But so they replaced the coach, and now you got to say who's going to coach that squad. I mean, who's up for these jobs right now? Frank Vogel out there. Like it's a lot of coaches out there right now. When you really think about it, Nick Nurse is floating around somewhere. So when you're looking at it, um, it's championship coaches out there that are out of jobs right now. Like so let that sink in. Are they just going to swap places? I mean, because I can see Nick Nurse going. I could actually see Nick Nurse going to the Phoenix Suns and actually making them a little bit tougher because he knows what he had in Toronto, that whole defensive uh, element. But um, these jobs that are open, they just not regular jobs. I mean, any coach would be happy to have one of these jobs to have a crack at winning it all. I mean, none of those teams, of course, right now that I'm talking about, well, we wouldn't be talking about them if they were right here at this point in the Final 14. So hats off to the Nuggets, the Lakers, hats off to the Heat and the Celtics for doing their thing, and to the NBA this year for actually putting on a decent display in the playoffs. It's been some good games, some unbelievable performances. To me, still the front runner in that department is still Jimmy Butler right now. Um, Jason Tatum's 50 something point game seven. Um, Stephen Curry's 50 point something game seven was all right. And that's another thing. The Warriors. Now everybody want to go back to the punch, but we talked about that stuff already. As far as the Warriors, where they at? The Warriors, they'll be back tough again, man. Steve Kerr go bring the team ready to play. Who knows what off season moves they gonna make. Uh, uh, we have something potentially fantastic on our hands. I mean, just think about the scenarios. If the Heat come out of the East, then it's like, wow, they went from an 8 seed to the championship, only be the second time that's ever happened. The Celtics are the front runners, and I think the Celtics have a little bit of an advantage in this series if they play. If the Celtics play up to their full level, then it probably won't. It shouldn't even be a close series. But we know Jimmy Butler gonna make this a close series. We know Jimmy Butler and company gonna make this a close series. But then I was looking at on the other side of things, like I say, the Lakers not done yet, man. You know they're gonna give Denver a run for their money. But if it's Denver, it'll be the first time the Nuggets been to a finals. So like the different scenarios, it'll be Joker's first time. So it's a lot of things that could happen. Potentially down the stretch, or it could be LeBron getting a crack at his fifth championship, AD getting a crack at his second. I mean, it could be just that easy. Um, you know, and like I said, Jimmy Butler playing for another one. I mean, those kinds of things could happen. The Celtics, we know they were there just last year, so they're playing for another one. But how good is Jason Tatum? Jason Tatum is showing that he's one of the best players in the league. We already knew that, but now he's really giving us confirmation on the fact that he's one of the best players by the way that he comes out balling. I appreciate the look that they have, and I appreciate what they're doing as far as putting on the show. The players are bringing it. I know that players suffer injuries and stuff like that say, "Wow," it makes it sad, but it is what it is. And just to switch it up real quick, shout out to Fancy Lips Cosmetics. Check them out at fancylip.com for the organic makeup supplies. And also check out Fam Brand for the latest gear, clothing. Um, Check it out at fam.brand Instagram. And Nerd Focus, the energy drink. Get your brain right and your game tight with Nerd Focus. Now, um, examining this NBA and really looking at some of the things that that stuck out so far in this playoffs. We saw good games from Trey Young. We saw good games from Steph Curry. We saw some people not show up. We saw good games from Booker. We saw, of course, I mentioned Jimmy Butler, but then like we saw teams just not have it. Like I said, we saw Giannis choke at the free throw line. And then say the season not a failure. Say that it was still like a pretty good season. They just didn't get to a championship. It was a disappointment and not a failure. Whether you agree with a failure or disappointment, let's just say that the Bucks fell short of where they were supposed to go. So, and I don't blame a person for having a positive outlook or a positive spin on something that's so disappointing because remember, I also picked the Bucks. I thought the Bucks would be right there, but since they not, it's the Celtics, it's the Heat, and it's gonna go down like that. But Spoelstra, I think he the better coach. So I think if it comes down to a chess match between the coaches, I think that Spoelstra is gonna win that chess match. So I think the players for the Celtics understand what they're up against right now, and they understand that they gotta bring it. They gotta raise their level of play. So that's really what I'm expecting. And then when you're looking at uh, um, just a brief moment, I'm here in Dallas, bringing you the show from Dallas. What's up, Dallas, Texas? But the Dallas Stars hockey, they in the Western Conference finals against the Vegas, the Knights, and what we're about to see is, like I always laugh at the hockey when it's teams that, uh, like not in cold climates, but they the ones that's in the championships. It's showing how evenly spread the talent is in hockey and what it takes. I mean, like man, can you imagine being a goalie in hockey and you just getting smacked with a puck? You just get smacked with a puck most of the game, and you got to make all these saves, and so that's interesting. But shout out to the Dallas Stars. Maybe they pull it off. Maybe they won't. Like I don't really have a favorite hockey team, but since I am here in Dallas, I say that like hockey fans, they are putting on the show, and hockey is doing their thing. Um, so again, hats off to the Stars, and hats off to Vegas. The whole for 2 games. Becky Hammond's getting into a violation, suspended for 2 games. Those things, man, I guess they just happen. And she says she didn't feel like she did anything wrong, but some I guess a violation of conduct codes or something was found, or however it goes. Over some words. About somebody being pregnant. Man, that's all I got from it. Like, I do my homework on stuff, but really and truly, that stuff is like, it is what it is. She suspended a couple of games. I mean, I understand they cleaning their game up. And speaking of suspensions, we know John Morant probably finna get suspended for a while. I don't even want to go to speculating what's going on with the young bro. I'm just gonna put it out there is that yo, um, I said it before. Remember, I said it before. That little short get help thing that he did. It probably wasn't long enough, but it's being suspended 8 games, a slap on the wrist the first time, and then he come back and then do the same thing again, caught with another firearm or whatever on a post, on an Instagram post. Tell your friends to put the cameras down, bro. Put the camera phones and stuff down, bro, and all that. But I mean, I'm not defending the actions. How about not do the actions in the first place? But what I'm saying is, man, you know, um, hopefully the young brother learns something from it this time that he didn't learn the first time. Sometimes it takes us, quite a few times of bumping our head before we, realize our mistakes and the errors in our ways, and we want to try to make some corrections. So, you know, I'm no exception. Nobody's no exception. So I'm not gonna knock the man way too hard. I'm just gonna say, man, Ja, you a sight to watch, man. Don't ruin your career. You know, by continuing to go down that road that you're going down. Hopefully, you get it together and you turn that around. And it's just for me, it's just an indication that sometimes it's like that old Kanye song, "Can't nobody tell me nothing." Pretty much because Josh seemed like he got a good support system in his corner. I'm not saying that some of the people he hang around, he don't need to hang around. That ain't for me to judge. But I'm saying you seen his father with him. He pictured with his father a lot, always courtside and stuff like that. So maybe that influence will get in his ear. I hope his pops ain't part of the problem, because I don't think people talking about all the dynamics. I mean, we're just talking about the friends that he hangs around, but I see his dad with him a lot. So it's like, hey, um, but hopefully Ja can get that all worked out. But going on from there, um, the firing of Monty Williams, I already touched on a little bit. It makes sense. Um, but like I said, for Phoenix, you're gonna have to bring somebody in, uh, somebody hungry. But who do you bring in? And then, y'all, every year I keep hearing this name mentioned for coaching jobs. Man, Mike D'Antoni. What is it about Mike D'Antoni that makes him the guy that you want to look for to coach your squad? I mean, this guy has coached several teams and hasn't taken them anywhere. Conference finals, maybe, but he's never been able to get over the hump. I mean, if you go do that, you might as well just go with a Doc Rivers. I mean, I was hearing Philly was talking about maybe potentially Mike D'Antoni. That's why I said that you might as well should have stuck with Doc Rivers if you ain't trying to go nowhere. Man, don't you want? I mean, you got to take a chance like the Celtics did. You got to take a chance on a fresh coach somewhere, or maybe the message ain't there, or maybe give somebody else different. I mean, I get it. Mike D'Antoni would be different, but what I like about Mike D'Antoni's led teams, coach teams, is that they come out and they put on the show. They up and down. They shooting the ball quick. Fast breaking. But we know that his strong suit has never been on the defensive end, and sometimes you just gonna have to make a stop or two. You ain't got to make a whole lot of stops. You gonna have to make a stop or two though. You gonna have to put some stops somewhere. It's gonna have to be some stops. You got to do that. Um, but I think for me, um, who knows how the coaching thing is all gonna pan out. I'm hearing Sam Cassell name being mentioned. It'll be cool to see Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell was a rookie on those Rocket Championship teams. For those that don't know, played in the league, journeyed in the league, played for quite a few teams. Milwaukee, he played for Minnesota. He played for quite a few teams, and Sam Cassell was a solid player. And that leads me to the thing that I think about a lot, and I've neglected to talk about, or I've yet to talk about, is coaching as far as players. Now, Darvin Ham was like a forward or something, power forward or something in the league, or however that goes. you know, but what I was looking at was it seemed like guards have the jump on the whole coaching thing. It could be just my view, but a lot of them, the Teron Lewis, the Steve Kerrs, I mean, the Jason Kidds. I mean, the list goes on and on. The Chauncey Billups and stuff like that. These coaches seem like guards have this thing, and is it because they were floor generals, so to speak? I think that Chris Paul, his next move should probably be head coach. I think Chris Paul will make a heck of a coach, and I think he'll have championship. I think that's when Chris Paul will have championship success. When he's a head coach, if he decides to coach, I think on any level, I think that a mind like his would be um, great. But I also look at it like these opportunities for these coaching jobs. It's like 4 or 5 jobs open there, and may the best person get there. But here's my thing. I had said this about the Charlotte Hornets, who got the second pick in the draft, which, by the way, the Spurs with the number one pick in the draft. Popovich cannot be more and more lucky, right? Remember when he got Tim Duncan in 97 or something like that, and they was running whatever it was, 97, 98, he got Tim Duncan, and then, he got his championships in the Spurs 20 something years, playoffs, and, and they were going deep into the playoffs lots of those years, you know. Um, so I'm just, wow, Popovich. I mean, what can you say about Popovich? He went to what, six or seven finals, six finals or something like that. So what can you say about Popovich other than, man, hats off. This dude is unbelievable with the pick that he got right now, because now he can start. Because we've seen that without Tim Duncan and company, he ain't really been all that good. Without Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and stuff, he ain't really been that good of a coach trying to do a rebuild. So now maybe he take Vic Wim, man. I'm gonna call him Vic Wim, Wembanyama. They're gonna take Vic Wim, and we gonna see what he gonna do with Wim, man. I personally think that Wim size is gonna be a good thing here and there, but I think it's gonna be a problem also. We gonna have to see what his conditioning is like against the NBA, against the best players in the world, man. That's what we got to see about him. And I'm hearing rumors that maybe Brandon Miller may go second in the draft or whatever. The Charlotte Hornets, but the Charlotte Hornets, they got to look at who they gonna put next to LaMelo Ball. First of all, can they get LaMelo a healthy LaMelo Ball to make some runs? And bring in some talent and put that around them. But my problem with Charlotte is I don't care who owns the organization. That organization just hasn't delivered in terms of good coaching and solid play from the players. They have coaches out there, in order to get those things to run together or flow nicely. But I don't know. For my money, um, Charlotte having a second pick, I mean, that's all right. That's cool and all. In Portland, in the Portland Trailblazers coming up with the third pick, the Rockets ended up getting the fourth pick, and the fifth pick was Detroit. Now going into that draft, we know they were saying that the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Pistons had the highest probabilities of getting that first pick overall, and it just turns out that it was the Spurs. But I'm liking anytime you got the top five lottery picks, you're gonna probably, what I mean, your team was sorry, but it also means that you're gonna probably hit the lottery and probably get something, get a prospect that's worth having and ready to get it in. It's a lot of exciting things gonna be happening. Everybody gonna be wanting to see what Bronny does at USC. Everybody gonna be wanting to see. I'm hearing a lot about a guy named. All of a sudden now we're hearing a lot about a guy named Scoot Henderson who was playing like in the G League or something. I give him his props. I give him his credit. He gonna be a draft pick, but I can't lie and say I know a whole lot about this Scoot Henderson. But I hear that he bought it a little bit. So we're gonna see how all that turns out in terms of the lottery. But for me, if I'm a player in the drafts and stuff, in any draft, um, especially football and basketball. Let's keep it football and basketball for right now. As far as our pro sports here, our major sports, the NFL and the NBA, it must suck. I would say it sucks to be picked. Like to know that you're going to a sorry or coming out of first. I mean, that right there has got to be evolved. Like, so you have to wonder, man, am I gonna bring? I mean, everybody gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna bring winning there. I'm gonna bring a winning culture, or and all those kind of things. But the truth is, do you really know when you go into a situation like that? How do you really feel? Like, is it go if you come from winning? Do you want to accept losing as a consolation prize for being the number one pick? I mean, because in terms of anything, the potentials of money and stuff, endorsements and stuff, or make a whole lot of difference. But as far as a player wanting to win and things like that, sometimes it just don't work out right away when you come to the league and these teams. Because most of the time you go into teams that's doing a quote unquote rebuild or something, you know, and I don't know the Spurs. They haven't been what they were in the last 5 years or so. They haven't really just been much in the last, in the last half a decade or whatever. So I don't know how this going to work out for Victor. I don't know how, like going to the Hornets will work out for Brandon Miller if if he is picked second. But the way they projecting it, and we know that things don't always go to projections, but you can bet that Vic Williams gonna be the first pick in the draft. Wembanyama gonna be the first pick. Everybody knows because 7'5" phenom. Nobody's never seen anything like it. He gonna go first, but is that going to make a difference within the Spurs organization? Are they going to be able to build quick enough to turn around? Popovich is no spring chicken. How many years is Popovich going to get to develop the young man? First of all, and how soon do we expect a turnaround to win? I, as a fan, I'm like, yo, you get a talent like that, and you've had all this other talent from previous drafts. You should be able to make a move like this. We know you shipped Dejounte Murray, but you kept some talent. Like I don't think young talent is one thing, but getting them all to play on the same accord and then being ready, and then like I hope they don't get Vic Wham and still have that tanking mentality. Is basically what I'm saying because we know they tank to get there in the first place, which is still hard to wrap my head around with a coach of Popovich's pedigree, um, tanking games. Um, you know, but I'm pretty sure the way Houston's moving, they not looking to tank games with Udoka. I'm thinking they looking to try to put something together and make serious runs and just show development of the players. I mean, because for me, it's more so than just getting players in the draft. You have to develop said players, and you see what happened with the Golden State Warriors and Wiseman. I mean, I think Wiseman played better in Detroit than he did in a Golden State uniform. But then I think Golden State really hurt his confidence and pride even by sending them down to like the G League or something, like sending them down a league. It's like that's like being in Major League Baseball and then going back down to the minors, or whatever for an extended period. I mean, to me, it's supposed to be the other way around. You bring them up, not down. But if you have to step down, and nothing's wrong with having to hone your skills, but Wiseman, I just thought that like with the Golden State coaches, they just saying that they didn't have enough time to develop them because they're trying to win now. We know those win now teams, they're not going to put up with that stuff for a long period of time, which is why I'm not surprised that Doc Rivers is out. I'm not surprised that Monty Williams is out. It was a shock that Nick Nurse was out. It was a shock that Coach Bud lost his job because it was like, hey man, y'all just went to the finals not long ago, but maybe they thinking he ain't gonna be able to duplicate that, or maybe, maybe the temperament was, it's not just going to be able to happen, but some moves got to be made. Like the Bucks got to make moves. Like I talk about all this stuff to say that the offseason going to be important for it's always important, but it's going to be important to see what moves are made. Like is Middleton still going to be a Buck? Lopez. It's just certain things like are the Bucks going to try to make any trades to try to do anything different to put another nucleus, to get somebody else to go with Giannis to put around that Giannis nucleus, I should say, and then building around them, or you going to run it back with the same guys again. Holiday, uh, Lopez, Porter's. Are you gonna run it back with those same guys? Porter, I mean, are you gonna run it back with those guys? Those are the questions that got to be answered as far as a team like the Bucks, who came up disappointing this year. What moves you gonna make there? Not only that, but you're looking at Philly just lost. Like I said, they already did one part. They got rid of Doc. What they gonna do? That means they can run Maxi, I like Maxi, but then you got the PJ Tuckers and stuff. You got some. These teams are gonna have some tough decisions to make as far as personnel. And like I said, Phoenix, man, who you gonna get to come and play? Like, can you afford to pay some players that can come in and get the job done? Or can you find a way to get that whole renaissance feel like the Lakers did at the trade deadline? Because they seem to come with the right people. D'Lo and them, D'Lo and Vanderbilt, Hachimura, who came a little bit before that, but you know what I'm saying. Those dudes came in ready to take the places of Westbrook and Beverly and all them, and um, and they came in and they did what they had to do. But I'm more and more impressed with the Austin Reeves. If I have to talk anything Lakers right now, then is Austin Reeves, man. He seemed like he wanted it last night. He had some shots that that could have kept him, that got him in the game, that got him, that kept him in the game. Um, but um, D'Lo's had his moments. Schroeder, though, to me, he can shoot, but he can get his shot when he wants to. But Lonnie Walker, I mean, how like getting all them guys minutes that's the interesting thing. How long do you play them? How short do you play them? And one thing I want to say to piggyback off something that I said. Remember, I told y'all, I know Golden State's gone, they out of it, and you say how they gonna come back? Draymond gonna be back? What they gonna do? But I told you, if anything, they gonna keep Gary Payton a second. You should keep that guy. I mean, because when that guy was playing, he really gave it his all, and I think that him sitting down at certain points, but that's just something. Hey, Steve Kerr is a championship coach; he know what he's doing, so you really can't tell him. But I think that he should have played more minutes at certain points than Jordan Poole, even though Jordan Poole did try to score a little bit, but then they just got ran out. They just missed a whole lot of shots. I mean, take nothing away from the Lakers. The Lakers played good defense, um, and they were wearing them down, but then Klay Thompson missed a whole lot of shots. Whew. And, from three, Curry was no better. I mean, those struggles right there. So it's just about shot making mostly. If I'm the Warriors, you say, hey, man, we got something to work with. Maybe a few pieces here, maybe a piece here or there. I like Wiggins. I like what they got. I mean, they could run it back with the squad they got, and they'll probably end up semifinals going further, like having a chance to set themselves up. But it's just about making shots. Sometimes that's all it boils down to is making shots. Just as Jason Tatum, remember he wasn't making no shots in that game 6, and then he started bombing, and then he started bombing on them and making those shots, and then he came in game 7, and right off the rip he was on the tail. He was on the tail, man. He was going for it, shooting the lights out. So I like what we're seeing, and I can't sleep on Brown. I gotta mention Brown because I give Brown flack sometimes when I watch the games for not, being assertive enough or being too assertive at certain points, or not knowing when to assert and when not to assert. Is my thing with him. But I think that he's figuring it out. Like he's understanding the roles on the team, and then when it's coming down the stretch, as long as Zero has the ball for the Celtics, they're gonna be all right. Same thing on the other side of the ball, man. If Jimmy Butler got the ball, then they're gonna be all right with the Miami Heat. Okay, now with another shout out to Nerd Focus, the energy drink. Check out Nerd Focus, the energy drink. Um, get your brain right and your game tight with Nerd Focus. But I wanted to get into a little bit of the boxing real quick, as far as this weekend. Good boxing match coming up. You got Lomachenko going up against Hanley, Devin Hanley, however you say his name. But um, boxing, you're hearing some about it, but you ain't hearing too terrible much about this fight, and it's supposed to be a marquee fight. But the thing is, I think that um, we got to get. I said it before. We got to get heavyweights back. But right now, if it's the lightweight action that we got, then it's the lightweight action that we gonna see. And hopefully they put on a good show. Lomachenko has been in some pretty good fights. So hopefully Hanley gives him a run. Hopefully Lomachenko brings it, because we know Hanley gonna be the favorite, and we don't know who gonna reign victorious. But I'm gonna go ahead and go with the underdog. I'm going with Lomachenko. I'm gonna take Lomachenko in this fight. on, if it turned the other way, it can go the other way. Devon's, I mean, he can fight a little bit. So I just look at it like, eh, Lomachenko for me. And I want to talk a little bit, of course, about my favorite sport, the NFL. But before I get into that, um, just oh man, my Dallas Cowboys. Uh, I understand what we're doing defensively. I understand all that, and I understand that we're putting together some offense. We're trying to put together some offense, and the more I got to think about it, the more I thought that I don't know if Brandon Cooks was the right move at receiver, but we gonna see. Hopefully, they building some chemistry. Him and Dak go have some chemistry on the field. I don't know. Brandon Cooks, the guy that threw a tantrum for H Town, man, and didn't really want to play for them, didn't really want to show up. So hopefully, he comes in and he's somewhere where he want to be, he comfortable, and we can come out and ball. I think that. Um, Cooks becoming the number one receiver over CD Lamb. That might be the play, but CD Lamb, uh, you know, uh, he earned the right to be number one after what he had to do last season. So we gonna see how all that pans out. But the big thing is Dak. Man, is Dak ready to take the next step? Is Dak ready just to seize the moment? We haven't had a quarterback that wanted to seize the moment since Troy Aikman, if you want to really be honest. I mean, we had the Tony Romos. I mean, I get the names and I get the putting the seats in the stands. That's all cool and all, but I'm talking about really that championship prowess, man. I don't know. Early on his rookie year, I thought Dak had that. But now we're gonna get ready to see if he has that. And we're gonna see if there's any growth out of our young players as far as maturity levels and stuff. 'Cause say what you want to say. Michael Parsons, he got a little bit of growing up to do. I mean, it ain't about antics and stuff like that, but you can definitely tell. And everybody has their own opinions about how things should go. But I think that if you're gonna be the leader of the defense, you got to show that maturity, man. You got to show that you're ready to really step up and you're really ready to make plays. And I don't want to hear no more of this 13 and a half sack stuff when when you should probably have 20. To be honest, you should probably have 16 or how many games? 17 games. You should probably have a sack a game or something. You know, it's like you have these games where you have 2 or 3 sacks, and then you have these games. You go through games where you have none. I mean, you go through a drought, 2 or 3 games with none. I mean, everybody sees it, everybody knows. And then, early on, you was talking about being defensive player of the year. This year, I want to see this going into this season. I want to see Michael Parsons really step up to be defensive player of the year, be sack leader in the league, things like that. But I know it's competition because Hassan Reddick and all them guys, man, they're gonna be out to prove Aaron Donald if he healthy. They're gonna be out to prove that he's not the sack master. You can't forget about T.J. Watt. When he gonna be challenging for the crown. It's gonna be Miles Garrett. It's a bunch of players that's gonna be challenging for the crown. But I think Michael Parsons can have that and more. I think he can make more plays if used effective. And I said this last week about being moved around and the effectiveness, and they saying that they're gonna continue to move him around because obviously when I say something, it turns around and now it's a big thing and like it becomes one of those topics of discussions. Nah, I'm just playing. It's not me. I'm just a fan. But yeah, I really want to see what we do, but I wanted to talk about, uh, we talk about all these different things, but let's talk about um, um, the NFL West. I mean, the NFC East. I mean, the NFC West. Excuse me, the NFC West. And I want to talk about the West because like through the years they beat each other up, but not so much last year. As we saw the 49ers was there, and Seattle was there a little bit, but the Cardinals was down. The Cardinals and the Rams was down. But when those teams seem to play each other real tough in that division, in which every division seems to beat up on each other a little bit, but that division specifically seems to push each other to the limits and seem to bring out the best. I like what Gino. I like what Gino and them got up there in Seattle, but for me, it's gonna be the Rams bounce back. Are the Rams gonna bounce back this year? Is Matthew Stafford going to come into the season healthy? Is he gonna play at all this season? I mean, is they still got questions if you the Rams? Remember, they coach wanted to take a break. He decided not to take a break. So it's so many different aspects. and everyone healthy. And, you got to have these pieces that's going to be ready. Are some of the new additions really going to help them out? And what's they plan at quarterback if Matthew Stafford can't go or whatever? Nobody's really talking about the Rams or really giving us an outlook of what potentially they could be or what are they going to do. They backup quarterback Walford, he just signed with someone else. So, you start looking at it like, what are they really going to do? And it's not just them. Um, but we know that the 49ers quarterback position is all about injuries. Who's going to be healed first? Is it going to be Purdy or is it going to be Trey Lance? We know it's going to be one of those two. But and then the Cardinals, who they going to have to play? Because we know that only barring a miracle. I mean, it'll be a miracle if Kyler Murray is ready. Uh, which you probably mid-season or something he might be ready, some games into the season or something. And another thing I want to throw out there while I'm talking about NFL, we always, listening to the experts and all this different stuff, all that talk about Tua's head injury and all that, but nobody said nothing about Hamlin, who had, who collapsed on a Monday night game, and trying to give it a go. Doctors have cleared him, and he gonna be trying to play again. Like, if anybody should be leery, if we should be leery of anyone trying to play, then we should probably be looking at Hamlin. But anyway, back to what I was saying about the NFC West. Um, the dynamics of quarterbacks over there, and like Geno. To be honest, it looked like Geno got a chance to be the front runner to be the best quarterback in that division right now. With them all down, I know Stafford. We know what Stafford can do if Stafford's healthy, but if Stafford has a lingering injury, then where does that leave him? Because you know, um, but Geno has a good chance, but I still think it's the 49ers division. And I only say that because of that guy, Shanahan. I mean, he's a heck of a coach. Whether he wins a Super Bowl or not, he keep his team sniffing around that, man. And that's more than I can say for a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches wish that they had Kyle Shanahan problems, lose all your quarterbacks, but still make it to, a conference championship game. I mean, those things are, man, it's inexplicable. But the talent that they have, so what I'm looking at, and I don't want to hear all this talk about having the best offensive linemen and this, that, whatever. I know everybody's entitled to have a bad game, but you can't have a bad game. Well, I'm talking about this Trent Williams. You can't have a bad game and get your quarterbacks and stuff hurt in a game and then still be talking about your offensive line. You got to shore up your line a little bit. I mean, I know the Eagles' pass rush was something, was a handful for a lot of people. I mean, it was a monster when they were unleashed. But at the same time, it's like, look at this, man. Um, I don't want to hear this talk about Trent Williams. Sometimes stuff annoys me. Um, but I really want to see, like the 49ers, they're gonna be tough again. But can Seattle um, really get them a run? Will the Rams bounce back? And where does that leave the Cardinals? Um, I'm one of those that's never had faith in the Cardinals. Never thought that they could win anything. Not, at least not anything major. I mean, every now and then they might have a good season, but overall, we know they're not really a threat to win a championship. But we seen the Rams win it. We seen the 49ers get there close, and we know what Pete Carroll can do. But the question mark remains, how those quarterbacks gonna pan out. And it looked like I said, it looked like Gino got the upper hand and gonna be off and running. Um, just because of the situation by default. If anything else, while these other quarterbacks try to play into their health and try to get back right. Um, but it's a lot of things to look at. This NFL season is going to be interesting. But I just wanted to highlight the West, and while I'm on the West, let's go AFC West. We know that Kansas City is on the top of that. Kansas City on the top. They're on the top of there. Who gonna knock them down? Like, is anybody in the AFC period gonna give KC a run for their money? Um, you know, and speaking of the AFC, we're gonna get an early look at Aaron Rodgers against Josh Allen early on. That's gonna be good. Old versus new. Old guy going to a new team, getting ready to take on the AFC East champs. So that's gonna be a good AFC East battle right off the rip that they bringing us. I like so we get what could be the 4 hours in that first look or that first game, then we'll still know what they're working with. And then blackout, or then Black Friday game. I almost call it a blackout game, but Black Friday game. I mean, first time ever, and they want to make that a tradition. I'm not mad at them. Um, Football. Um, do I think that we've been oversaturated with football? Let me see. A little bit. I mean, you got all these leagues now. The XFL just wrapped up, and now you got the USFL going on right now. I mean, which you got all these leagues. I mean, it's okay. I'm not mad about having all these leagues, but um, my thing is, once will these leagues be around long enough to build a rapport to build reputable fan bases or to build bigger fan bases and stuff like that. I think those are the drawbacks to the games. The XFL seem to have gained more fans at certain games. The USFL, I just haven't seen that many people in the stands all too much of those games. So, hopefully those things take off. But yet, do I think, with the question, do I think that it's oversaturated? And my answer is no. At least not right, not currently, because life goes on. I mean, I'm getting my basketball in, I'm getting my baseball in, I'm getting my sports in that like I normally would, even with these extra football. Now I pay attention to these. I pay attention to the players, because you might see someone um, that you've never, like, hey, he got potential to be in the NFL and things like that, or why wasn't this guy in the NFL? You see some of that stuff, but really and truly, like, it's like everybody having a chance to prove themselves is good, and getting paid to do what you love. I can't be mad at it, so I'm not knocking these other professional leagues outside of the NFL, but I think the NFL, man, they own to something big. Is it not the biggest sport right now? I mean, is an indication the Commanders, the Washington Commanders, just sold for over $6 billion. You know, the owner of the 76ers and all that, is leading that charge. With Magic Johnson, on that group. Um, pretty dope idea. Pretty dope to really, when you let that sink in. Last week I was talking about athletes being a part of ownerships and stuff like that. But this week, with the last few minutes of the show, I'm just looking at the NFL. Is going to be a lot of parodies. It's going to be a lot of different things. But like I said, how big of a sport? Who would have thought that the NFL would trump the NBA, would trump MLB, and would just be that sport, like, just that, America's favorite pastime, football. And that's why you have so many leagues right now, is because football is that thing. um, not too many people can play it, but a lot of people love to watch it. I tell you that. It's the same thing with the other sports. Take nothing away from it, but you know um, baseball for me right now is, you know, it's up for grabs with my Yankees trying to bounce back. Not even, they winning now, and we know, but we know that it's gonna have to get a little bit deeper. But then you look at the Mets. The Mets spend a lot of money. The Padres. I mean, all these teams are spending, spending, spending. In every sport across the board, they're spending phenomenal money. Like, think about this. Um, Jalen Brown due to make the almost 300 mil off an extension, if he signs an extension or whatever, offered or whatever. So those things, whew, man, making those first teams and stuff. And then John Morant cost himself money by not making one of the NBA teams, first, second, or third teams. And there's no doubt because of his display off the court, not on the court, because on the court we know that he played his way to be one of those. But with all the phenomenal money, with all the phenomenal things going on right now, uh, it's a good time for football. And I'm anticipating the season. I can't wait for the season to start. But until then, it's the Eastern Conference Finals. It's the Western Conference Finals. Denver up 1-0. And now tonight, who going to win tonight? Will the Heat steal game one? Or will it be uh, the Celtics? Or will the Celtics, do their thing tonight? I'm leaning towards, I say, the Celtics go speak out. Miami in essence, but they're gonna hold on. And I think that for me right now, if I have to pick between the four teams right now, um, I'm just gonna say Celtics. Allen Rose. That's what it is. This has been the Die Hard Fan Show. Is yours truly, the people's coach, Kanice Cole, getting out of here. Thanks to Sports for America for putting me on. Y'all have a good one.